Well, what's up, everybody? How's everybody doing this wonderful Monday night? We are coming to you live again. This is a new thing that I've been trying to, been wanting to get started, but we're coming to you live tonight with Monday night market, the Greater Baton Rouge real estate market update for the week of, or for today, from the previous 7 days. So we would love to be able to share that with you and just get into as much information as we can for you. We should have, there we go. Now we're making some progress here. All right, so let's check this out and see what we have going for the week for the last 7 days. So again, my name is Damien Tullier. I am the broker owner of the Tullier Property Group, and I have been in real estate since 2012. And today we're going to talk a little bit about the market statistics. We got some listings of the week. We actually are Central heavy this week, so we're going to talk all about Central this week. Next week we'll maybe talk about Baton Rouge or Prairieville or something like that. But we'll have that, and then we have question and answer. And so if you have any questions, I left off buyer. We have some buyer tips too. I left that off, so apologies. But we're going to talk a little bit about buyer tips and how that can, how we can maximize the opportunities right now if you're looking to buy a house, because it is a little bit of a challenging market for a home buyer. And so we want to make sure that we help you out as much as we can, give you as much good advice. So let's first talk about the market statistics. When we look at the market stats, sold homes January 24 through January 25, like we talked about last week, we mentioned this number and we were way behind because of the freeze, because of the snow day, and then look what happened. We ended up surpassing 2024's numbers. So 532 total closed sales in the month of January. And so that is going to, that's not bad. It's not as high as it's been, but it's not terrible. But we definitely like to see that number climb, and it definitely will as the year goes by. So in the past 7 days, as we're looking at the past 7 days, we have got, 159 properties that have sold, and, just it's steady, and so that was a good number to see. Did I have last week's numbers? No. That was a good number to see. It was something to see coming up. We're definitely increasing. So I do think we will see over the next couple of weeks, months, the market to kind of come back to life a little bit, because this should be been a little bit dormant over the winter. Year over year sales, and we look at 2023. That shows the 2025, 2025 and 2024. So apologies on that. But our 2025 number right now, so far year over year is there, and then our year over year for 2023 was there. So we're a little bit low right now at the moment. And then we looked at absorption rate week to week, and again, absorption rate is the rate in which homes sell in an area over time. Anything above or near 20% is a really, really hot seller's market. That was 2021, 2022. Anything below that, closer to 15% or less is kind of a really soft market. We're definitely approaching that. And so currently right now, the way we figure that out is we take a look at the last 30 days. So in the last 30 days, I know we've talked about a previous number for January, but this is the last 30 days, so it's not going to include all of January. But we have 490 sales. We have currently 2,936 active listings. When you divide that out, that gives you almost a 16%. So closer to 15 than it is 16. So we are seeing the effects of that. The effects of that, that is reflecting in the market right now. The market is a little bit soft. And so, houses are staying a little bit on the market. As you can see, they actually have gone up since last week's numbers. We're on the market 74 days as opposed to almost 70 days last week. So, does that mean there's something wrong? No, I don't think so. It's just timing, and sometimes you're going to see these numbers fluctuate from week to week. Sometimes a house, it just happens that several houses that maybe were sitting on the market for a little longer sold in 1 week, and so that's going to definitely affect. So, where we would get worried if we start to see a rise in this over the next several weeks. If it stays kind of bouncing up and down, fluctuating, maybe steady around the 70 number or near 70, we'll be fine. So list to sales ratio, right now, the average price in the last 30 days is $293,383, and the list price is $301.54. And we're still seeing above a 97% on the list to sale ratio, which is really good. That means the houses are still selling. We're not seeing a lot of price drops. We're seeing some, but not a lot. And so that's keeping the housing prices high, keeping the values high, for buyers, maybe not the best because that's still, we have a little bit of an affordability crisis been going on in the real estate market for a little while. But there's not much we can do about that at the moment. So new listings last 7 days versus previous 7 days. In the last 7 days, we had 255. I think we had a little bit of a pent-up frustration from the snow because the previous 7 days before that, we only had 136. And I think that's what you see the difference in that number. All right, so let's talk about the listings of the week, the different listings that we have. We've got, like I said, 3 coming to you in Central. This is a townhome, looks like just hit the market today. 1570, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 290 square feet, 290,000, excuse me. 2-car garage. It's located near Wax in Sullivan. This is in the little area of Central, right near Cafe Phoenicia. I mean, this is like, it's like 30 yards from Cafe Phoenicia where this little house is located. So if you're looking at this front door picture right here and you go over to our right as we're facing the house, Cafe Phoenicia is just at the end of the street right there. Great little house. I read it's got a reverse osmosis water system. Newer floors upstairs was something that it's got plantation shutters on all of the windows. So it's definitely got some upgrades. So if you know somebody who's looking for, maybe a downsize for their parents, master bedroom is on the bottom floor, so that's a plus. If we're dealing with somebody who's trying to get away from stairs. But it's a great little place. It's a really nice condo. Excuse me, I keep saying condo. It's a townhome. There is a difference between that townhome and condo. It's basically how the bylaws and the documents for the subdivision are written. If you want to go into detail more about that, I will be happy to, but we'll do that offline. And then our next one is on Wilmington Drive. This is out in Pride, 15117 Wilmington Drive, 1,810 square feet, 3 bedroom, 2 bath. Just had a price reduction, it looked like, $249,999. It's got a detached shop that does have electricity. Doesn't look like it has no plumbing, but does have electricity. Large backyard. It's in flood zone X, and it did not flood in 2016. Y'all, how many houses in Central did not flood in 2016? Is very few. And so if you're a first-time home buyer, if you're looking for something, this is a solid house. It's got good bones. It's got good interior. Is it the most updated house in the world? No, but it's nice, and it's in a safe spot. It's in Sherrington Place subdivision off of Denham Road. So yeah, reach out to me. I'd love to show it to you and see if we can get somebody in there to take a look at it. The next one is Villa Trace. That's right there off of Magnolia Bridge Road. Almost 2,100 square feet, 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, 374.9, built in 2010. Great little house. If you're looking for easy access into Denham Springs, you definitely have it right there at that location, and even easy access into Central and into Baton Rouge. That's really a good location to be able to live, and you got a great neighborhood that's been established for about 15, 20, almost 20 years in this area. So great spot. All right, let's work our way to our buyer tips. Now, any young buyers out there, maybe you're not young, maybe you're looking to move to another house, downsize, upsize, I don't know what it is, but let's talk a little bit about buyer tips and what we need to look for when it comes to the market in regards to buyer tips. So let's first talk a little bit about understanding loan options. And when we look at the loan options, we need to be aware of the different types of loans that as a buyer you have access to. Conventional loans, USDA or RD loans, FHA loans, VA loans if you're a veteran. So these are all different loan types. I can remember when I first bought my first house, we used an FHA loan, and I was like, oh, okay, what does that mean? Had no clue. And so, that's not unusual, especially for younger people who have never bought a house before. You don't understand and know what the difference between the different loans are. And so, there's a package that fits everyone. It's designed to help fit your needs. And so you have all these different loan types, packages, down payment options, we'll talk about in just a minute. And each type has an advantages, depends on what your buyer's financial credit, situation, long-term goals are. So the goal is to be able to get you into the house, not just getting you in, but also getting you in a place where you can afford it and you feel comfortable. So it's smart in your budget. But that's some of the different options that we have as far as the loans go. Now, when we mentioned something about down payment requirements. Now, the amount of down payment varies on the type of loans. And so on the previous screen, we talked about several different types of loans. I know I didn't go into a lot of great detail about those, but there's several different types. that we can, we can utilize. And so some of the things that we want to talk about here, though, one of the differences mostly is that they all have a little bit of a variation on down payment, and then there's some other things too. But down payment is probably the primary factor that is the differentiator for some of these loans. And so when we're looking at a 3%, it should be 3.5%. Sorry, 3.5%. That's going to be more your FHA loan, and then you could put up to. You can put up to anything you want. If you want to put 50% down, you can put 50% down. But typically we see anywhere between 3 and 20%, put down. You do see zero. And if you look at that next part, 0% down programs do exist. They oftentimes can help. They're oftentimes used by buyers. They can help buyers. There are some first-time home buyer down payment assistance programs that can be utilized. So there's lots of different options that are out there. We just got to see what you qualify for. And so if you're looking for that house, if you're trying to figure out how I'm going to pay for closing costs, how I'm going to pay for this, how I'm going to pay for that, which we're going to talk about here in just a second, some of these first-time home buyer programs, they're not perfect. They don't work for everybody, but sometimes they do. And so that's something that we can look at, and something that I would highly recommend you at least ask about. All right, moving on. Getting pre-approved for a mortgage. So pre-approval is a crucial step in the home buying process. It gives the buyer a clear idea of how much they can afford. And, and it bases it off your credit scores, and it bases it off your income, debts, and then your employment history. And so all of those things are important. So if you have any of those things, okay, if you have debts, if you have a good credit score, if you have income, if you have employment history, those are all key factors in being able to buy a house, because we don't want to make you buy a house, let you buy a house, and you can't pay for it, then you got a problem. So that's definitely things that are all taken into consideration when we're working closely with a lender. We work with high quality lenders who do a great job for the client to make sure that they get and are fully, they get in the house, but more importantly, are fully educated along the way of getting in the house on what they can do. And so when we talk about these pre-approvals, it also gives us it strengthens the buyer's position when they're making an offer. So if you're making an offer on a house, and you go to make that offer and you don't have a pre-approval letter. Let's say you just have a pre-qualification letter, and yes, there's a difference. You have a lesser of a power position. You have less leverage when it comes to buying a house without a pre-approval letter. If you have that pre-approval letter, what that tells to the sellers is, hey, this buyer has been vetted, they've been checked, they've gone through all of our requirements of what we need. We've double-checked their income. We've double-checked their debt, their scores, and their employment. They're good to go. You need to consider this, whatever they're going to send to you, seriously. And so that's some of the things that we look at, and that's how we kind of take that into consideration. So let's, keeping that in mind, it strengthens that opportunity when you do go to make that offer on the house. It strengthens that opportunity to give you a better purchasing position. So, all right, budgeting for additional cost when it comes to buying a house. Now, obviously, buying a house is expensive. Not only is the cost of the house expensive, but then we're going to talk a little bit about some of these other expenses. So in other expenses, you have closing costs, you have buyer representation. If it's not covered by the seller, you have inspections, appraisals, and all these things can add up. I mean, they add up significantly. And so what we try and do, especially in a market like this, we talked about that almost 16% absorption right now. In a market like this, the market's a little softer, as we said a little while ago. And so buyers can have a little bit more help because the sellers want to sell and the houses aren't moving super, super fast. Unlike 2021, 2020, when everything was just flying, you were paying over ask, you were paying all of your closing costs, you weren't having the seller pay any of your expenses. And so it's very different in regards to where we are today versus where we were then. And so all of these things have costs. One of the things that you see up there, it's escrow money. Escrow money is the money that a lender may require for an escrow account if the lender's going to have your taxes and your insurance paid out of an escrow account, which actually isn't a bad thing. They think of an escrow account as just like a savings account for your taxes and your insurance. And that way it's paid every month. You pay a 12th of that payment every single month when you pay your bill. It's included in the mortgage payment. And they just put that off in a little account for you to be able to pay that, those expenses when time comes. And then buyer's representation. That's something else that is relatively new. Back last year, towards the end of the year, there was a big lawsuit out of Missouri that basically changed the way buyer representation was done. A lot of times buyer representation in the past was typically paid by the sellers. All right, and it was just always a part of the seller's charges. And so that's changed a little bit, and I'm not going to bore you with all the details, but sometimes there can be an expense to have a buyer's agent. Now, in that instance, we do try and still ask for the seller to pay for as much of it as possible. And I'm going to be honest with you, most of the time, the sellers will. But not always. It's not a guaranteed, anymore like it was, like it used to be. And so that's definitely something that we have to take into consideration when we're looking at costs and expenses. So how do interest rates and what are their impacts? Interest rates can affect the total cost of a house. The lower the rates, obviously, the greater the buying power. The higher the rates, the lesser the buying power. It's not real hard to figure out. We all know that our houses sell quicker when the interest rates are lower. Now, there's a caveat to that. When their interest rates are lower, they sell quicker, but they usually sell for a higher price. So for all of you who are hanging out and they're saying, hey, I'm just going to wait. Trump's in office now, right? And he said he's going to lower interest rates, so I'm just going to wait. Well, based on estimations from National Association of Realtors, there's like 35-40% of buyers right now are doing that. And so what that means is as soon as the interest rates do finally come down, you're going to have a massive buyer pool that's going to enter the market. And very simple supply and demand, what happens? When you have a massive demand, all of a sudden what happens to price? Price goes up. So what I would recommend you do is at least have a conversation now. Maybe now's not the time. It might not be. But at least have a conversation with an agent. I'll be happy to talk to you if that's what you want to do. Or with a lender, so that we can grasp an understanding of where you are. Because as soon as these rates do come down, I don't think the prices are going to come down. I think the prices are actually go up. So what did you really gain? Are you gaining the ability, or you just delayed your buy? So I would certainly have that conversation if you're interested in it. All right. This is something from last week that was actually for the sellers. So we're going to skip on that. I forgot to remove that slide from the slideshow. And then we have a Q&A session. And so if you have any questions regarding this, I would love to have an opportunity to answer them for you. So does anyone, is there anybody that would have any comments? I don't think anybody is. We've actually had some people on and off since we started this, but I don't think anybody's on at the moment. So if you do have questions, I know I threw out a lot of good information, a lot of stuff about the market, and I'm not trying to bore you with stats, but I'm here to try to educate and help. Sorry, I have a teacher background, and so that educator part of me still comes out, especially when it comes to buyers. But post in the comments, send me a text, send me an email. I'd be happy to answer those questions for you, happy to provide you with some information. And, even if you want to sit down and grab a cup of coffee or something at CC's or something and see, or Starbucks, whatever you like, and let's see if we can, if there's a good fit for you right now. And maybe if now's the time to do something, or if it's later. So anyway, feel free to call me at any time. Again, Damien Tullier, Tullier Property Group, happy to help. And I hope you have a wonderful evening. Take care.